Konnichiwa Mina, and here is week 5 of the 2018 DCFL season. So we get the video started by taking a look at the week 4 stand-ins, as right now, the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions are the only undefeated team right now. They have the #1 seed with a freeway tie between the Phoenix Devils, New York Gangsters, and Seattle Tenyo for the last remaining playoff seeds, as the Chicago Steelers and Baltimore Charm are 2-2. The Jacksonville Scouts, Pittsburgh Power, and Charlotte Bobcats are 0-3, and the Oakland Pillagers, last place at 0-4, is the last last winless team. And we now take a look at the schedule for the Week 5 games, as we start off with the Baltimore Charm visiting the Charlotte Bobcats, and then what could be a very big matchup is the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions visit the Chicago Steelers. Then the New York Gangsters visit the Jacksonville Scouts. Then the Pittsburgh Power visits the Oakland Pillagers. And then the game of the week with huge playoff implications at the line, probably with the second seed on the line, the Seattle Tenyo visits the Phoenix Devils. So we get started with the Baltimore Charm visiting the Charlotte Bobcats. My Charm have won 2 in a row and getting right back into the playoff mix, as the Bobcats lost their game last week to Pittsburgh, and not looking really good right now as we get into the game, but they do have one of the best defense in the league, so that can cause me trouble. But the Charm would win it in overtime, 20-17, which is really funny because Baltimore had over 475 yards of offense. The Bobcats had almost 400 yards, yet it was only 20-17. Talk about low scoring and shit for such an offensive performance. And hey, the Charm have won 3 in a row now, as we're getting closer to getting back into the playoffs, which is delightful for me. So then we go up to Chicago for a big important matchup, as the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions visit the Chicago Steelers. Indianapolis, #1 seed at the moment, the last undefeated team, trying to keep that up, as the Steelers, after looking good the first few weeks, now lost 2 in a row. Ugh, not looking really good whatsoever, but they're at home right now, and they still have one of the best defense in the league, so maybe they can cause trouble for Indianapolis. But the Rapid Stallions would curb stomp the Steelers 30-13. They tried to be competitive throughout the game, but just couldn't keep up with the Rapid Stallions going into the second half, as surprisingly Indianapolis only got 376 yards of offense in the game, but hey, they forced 6 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 2 fumbles, so they did a lot of work defensively to ensure that the Steelers couldn't get much going. So wow, 5-0 now, still remain undefeated, and going to have the #1 seed guaranteed for this week, as the Steelers now lost 3 in a row. They should be very, very worried, seeing as they were the best team overall going into the season. So then it's the New York Gangsters visiting the Jacksonville Scouts in a matchup between one of the best offenses and defenses in the league. New York beat Oakland last week in a defensive struggle, and Jacksonville lost in that offensive juggernaut against Indianapolis last week, as both teams trying to get a win. Jacksonville trying to make a comeback to get back into the playoff hunt, as the New York Gangsters trying to win to get themselves the #1 seed, the second seed for the moment in the playoffs, over Phoenix and Seattle. But the Jacksonville Scouts dismantled and destroyed the Gangsters 48-17. It was a 48-free rout at one point before the Gangsters decided to get 2 garbage touchdowns, for crying out loud. Holy crap, that was unbelievable. And surprisingly, they only got 390 yards off the Scouts, but they got a shit ton of touchdowns off of it, along with 3 sacks. So what a dominant victory for Jacksonville. That's going to help out a lot in terms of getting back into the playoff hunt, especially since they got the tiebreaker over Jacksonville and New York right now. A very disappointing loss for New York. As with this loss, plus my Baltimore Charm's victory, and who knows what happens with Seattle and Phoenix, they're in trouble in terms of having a playoff spot this week. So then we go out to Oakland, as the Pittsburgh Power visits the Oakland Pillagers. Pittsburgh got their first win of the season last year. Meanwhile, Oakland is still trying to get their first win of the season. So maybe against the lowly Power, maybe they can finally get their first win. But nope, as the Power dismantled the Pillagers 34-13, as they actually had a whole bunch of offensive performance today. First time this season they really got that in this rout, as the Pillagers still remain winless, and 2 wins in a row for Pittsburgh, getting themselves back in playoff contention perhaps. And then we finally finish off the week with the Seattle Tenyo visiting the Phoenix Devils in a very important game with the number 2 seed on the line, as Seattle won a defensive struggle against Chicago last week, and the Phoenix Devils, try as they might, just fell to their first time this season against my Baltimore Charm, as both of them are trying to get that win. And the Tenyo would get it, 27-16. It was tied up at halftime, but Seattle ran away with it, got over 370 yards of offense, and there was no defense at all in this game. No sacks or interceptions or fumbles. So, wow, Seattle's offense actually looked pretty good today. I'm sure Miami's hoping they can keep that up, along with the defense being good. Maybe they can be in the playoff hunt, but right now, number 2 seed. As well, looks like Phoenix is starting to fall back to earth as they now lost 2 in a row. And after that, week 5 is in the books as we now take a look at the standings, as right now Indianapolis still remains number 1, but Seattle has now moved up to number 2, and my Charm are back into the playoffs as the 3rd seed, and the Phoenix Devils are still in as they fall in to the 4th seed as the New York Gangsters look in. And then the Scouts has the tiebreaker over the Staleys and Power, and then the Staleys have the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh at the moment. And then the Charlotte Bobcats are 9th place, and then last is Oakland, still winless. 8 of the 10 teams are within a game of making it into the playoffs, so this is very competitive still, so we gotta keep our eye out this season so far. And now Indianapolis has the number 1 offense, and in a tie between them and Seattle with the number 2 defense. Ain't that just something? And we now take a look at the schedule for week 6, as a whole bunch of big games, starting off with the Seattle Tenyo visiting the Baltimore Charm. That's going to be big. Then the Oakland Pillagers visiting the Charlotte Bobcats. And then the Chicago Staleys visiting the New York Gangsters. Playoff implications right there. Then the Phoenix Devils visiting the Indianapolis Rapid Stallions. Another big important playoff implication game. And then finally the Jacksonville Scouts visiting the Pittsburgh Power. And with that, week 5 is in the books. And I cannot wait for week 6 for the 2018 DCFL season. So see you then.